yeah, I wrote that first manuscript about Cowboy and I was like, oh man, I want to write more books. Like, this is great. I feel like I can do this and I'm enjoying it. And I feel like I'm getting a passion for it.
Welcome to You May Contribute a Verse. I'm Brenna Jennerette, children's book author of the upcoming nonfiction picture book, A Bike is Not Just a Bike, all about how the bicycle helped to usher in the women's revolution. It's illustrated by Michelle Peoria, and it launches July 21st, 2026, and is now available for pre-order. I'm joined by my co-host, Josh Munkin, dad, kidlit author, and science communicator. This episode is proudly sponsored by Canadian children's book publisher Tealmore Press, where every book sold supports reforestation. Check out Tealmore's newest release, Enough to Share, written by Mary Helen Berg and illustrated by Sue Todd. It's a warmly illustrated book about our beautiful and fragile planet with themes of sharing and the importance of coexistence. Check out this title and the full Tealmore Press catalog at tealmorepress.com, including titles like Naked, Fungi Are More Than Mushrooms, and Supermoon. Today's guest is Jessica Milo, author of the upcoming My Pony Wonder, illustrated by Ramona Kalizuki, coming July 7th. So pre-order your copy now. Join us while we chat with Jess about writing a story originally intended to heal her own grief that later became the springboard for her own writing career. We also chat about how she signed with her agent and what happened when her first agent left the industry. And of course, we go over everything about how My Pony Wonder came to be. This one is full of gems. Don't miss it. Here's Jessica's verse. Jess, thanks for joining us today. I'm really excited to have you on and talk all about your book and your agenting journey and all of the things, because you and I have chatted, several times, like before this even, just like trading manuscripts here and there and whatever. And so it's nice to actually get you on to chat about all your stuff.
For sure.
No, thank you for having me. I'm so excited. I can't wait to talk about, everything. I was just telling Brenna earlier, I'm like, it's so nice that I know you guys like outside of this and like before we scheduled the podcast interview. So I feel like I'm talking to friends,
Tell us about how you got into Kidlit and like sort of where it all started.
Yeah, so in 2021 in the summer, I was a preschool teacher and teaching. Yeah, I
love
love
that.
I was working with toddlers and preschool kids in a French immersion school. And
A French immersion school, really? I did not know that part. Very cool. Oh, I bet Josh has things to say about that. We'll put a pin in
oh
that.
yeah, we've
Yeah,
talked about this.
yeah, we have for sure.
Yeah, so I went to university and I got my French degree because it was actually my high school French teacher that she made me fall in love with French. And so I wanted to be her. I wanted to be a high school French teacher just like her. And I was just obsessed with like the French language and the Francophone culture out there. And I thought that's what I was gonna do for like the rest of my life. I was like, I'm gonna teach French to kids. Um, I found I was working in an after school program for a French teaching French program for kids, and I was working with like kids from like 5 to 12 or whatever, and I really enjoyed working with the little ones. And so I was like, you know what? I think I want to teach like the younger crowd. They're just so full of imagination and they're so fun and hilarious. So I taught French to kids for like, I don't know, 10 plus years. And in 2021, obviously the pandemic happened, but I didn't stop working. My French immersion school, which was like also a childcare center, they opened under like as an emergency childcare center. So I was still going to work, and so I wasn't that I like lost my job and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna change careers and switch to writing. It was actually because in 2021 I lost my cat of 21 years. Like I had him since I was 7, and
No, that's such a bummer, Jess.
I know. It all started in the sad moment. So, I lost
Oh,
my cat. He was my baby. I got him when I was 7. Like, I remember bringing him to show and tell in second grade
oh,
and stuff. And
cute.
he was just like I don't know. I felt like we were made for each other. So it was a very like sad time for me. I was like really just like down in the dumps. It was like a very dark period for me. And so what I did was I was like, you know what, like I'm grieving. I started reading like grief picture books.
Aw.
Because as a preschool teacher and a toddler teacher, like I read picture books every day. Like story time
Yeah.
was my favorite. That was my favorite time of day. My favorite thing to do with them was just the books. The books were great. So I
Yeah.
read some grieving picture books, and what actually really started it was like my parents were like, you love your cat Cowboy. Like you had him since you were a kid. Like he's like,
Wait, his name was Cowboy?
yeah. His name is
Cute.
Cowboy. I guess it kind of ties into my book because, yeah, I grew up riding horses, and at the ranch that my sister and I would go to, the mama barn cat, the barn cat was, she had kittens, and my parents let me pick one, and I named him Cowboy because he was born on a ranch, and like
I
cows were my
love
favorite
that.
animal, and he was a boy, so I was like Cowboy. Um,
Aw.
and so, yeah, when I lost him, it was just like, I was really sad. I read some, grieving picture books, and I really like appreciated like how they approached the topic. And it just felt so reassuring. Like it felt like comforting. And my parents were like,
Yeah.
why don't you write your own picture book about Cowboy? And I was like, oh,
Yes.
maybe I'll try that. Like that would probably be very like cathartic. And it was. I did write that book. That was my first manuscript I wrote, which was of course
Oh,
way too long and full of
of
description. And
course.
like it was that classic like me and Cowboy go on adventure in the forest and we follow a butterfly. Like it was that like total
Really
like
like
what
on
you
the
would like,
Amazing.
nose and wordy and
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
really on the nose, but like it made me feel good. And I had always enjoyed creative writing. Like in middle school and high school, I always like was writing poetry. And like loved reading as a kid. That was like a big part of my life was reading books. Um, so yeah, I had always enjoyed creative writing. And yeah, I wrote that first manuscript about Cowboy and I was like, oh man, I want to write more books. Like this is great. I feel like I can do this and I'm enjoying it. And I feel like I'm getting a passion for it. So like in 2021, I just like rabbit holed, deep dived into like taking all the webinars and workshops I could find and like through SEBWI. And then I heard about 12 by 12. So I joined 12 by 12 in the next year and like the highlights courses. And I found Children's Book Academy. And that was like my first actual course on picture book writing. And I was like, just every day, I just like the more I like studied and read more and more picture books, I was like, oh, I want to do this. Like this feels like it's for me. Like I feel like this is like a new passion, a new side of me that like had always been there with like my love for creative writing and my love for reading, but like it like awakened in me like something buried deep down. So I just since 2021 I that's what I've been doing is just like really working on creating books and being an author.
And you went down this rabbit hole while you were teaching? How long did your daycare center or the French immersion school like function as in that emergency capacity? Because that
Yeah.
seems like an entirely different experience.
Oh yeah, it was. So when COVID hit in March 2020, like everyone's like, we got to, shut down. We did shut down for like a few months. But I was still like part-time working by creating like packets and like videos for the kids so that we were doing like virtual circle times and like activities and stuff. And then once the French immersion school got an emergency childcare license, like I went right back into the school. And we only had a few kids there because it was for like those needed like the first responders and all that. But we would like have the few kids there and go about our day and do what we usually do. And then like for circle times and story times, like we would have the kids that were still at home join in virtually. Um, so yeah, I was still doing story times and activities and yeah, it was crazy. I know a lot of people were like, they lost their job or like they were just at home more. And I was still going in to the school, but and it was really when in 2021, like I lost my cat and stuff that I found like picture books for my like I was always reading picture books to kids, but that was like kind of the first time I was reading picture books for myself. Um, because like picture books like tough topics they just like say it so gently and stuff. I wasn't looking to read like a grief novel or self-help book. I was looking for something that was like that kind of spoke just to how I was feeling and like kind of broke it down and like felt very not simple, but you know what I mean. And
So really validating, I feel like,
yeah,
because, picture books aim to do that, like sort of like I see you, I get what you're going
and
through, and it's okay,
it's
right? But
okay. Yeah,
in a very like gentle way, like you're saying. It's not too didactic, not on the nose, not like here's all the things you should be doing. It's like, well, it's
yeah,
okay. You can be sad and, this
yeah.
book will be
In
here
this
for you.
moment, yeah, exactly. That's exactly how it felt. And like my parents saying like, oh, you should write your own picture book, and it can be about Cowboy and like how you're feeling and stuff. Like I was like, yeah, like how great if I was writing it for myself, and then I was realizing like, oh, well, I mean, maybe this could help other kids and stuff. And so yeah,
Yeah,
it kind of started out, I was writing picture books for myself, kind of like my own therapy. um, and
I
just like
love that.
working through like my emotions and stuff. And then I just started to like, okay, I love this. I want to do this like forever. Like this is a big passion. And for so long I did French, and that was like my thing. And it was so neat to discover like this other passion that was like, you know what, like I love French. I taught for, a decade, but I'm ready to leave that behind and like explore this new area, like this new side. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so I just fell in love with it and kept writing.
So whatever happened to the Cowboy manuscript? Did it go anywhere? Number one. And number two, if it didn't, what was the first manuscript that you wrote that got some traction? Like what was that like? Like what happened, after you had taken all those classes?
Yeah, so I did write the Cowboy manuscript. I never took it anywhere. I thought like, I don't know, it felt so personal. And it
Yeah.
was my first manuscript. And like, of course, in the courses you learn like, keep writing, your writing will get better. And I just felt like, I don't know, I felt like it wasn't good enough. It was very like that classic, like on the nose, like Josh was saying. So in the course, in the Children Books Academy course, I wrote a picture book about that was inspired by my mom because she's a hairdresser.
Oh, cool.
She's been a hairstylist since before I was born. So it was like it was called Arlo the Hair Magician, and it was like a little boy wanting to be a hairstylist like his mom, and he sees her as like this magician that like transforms her and like transforms these people. And
Cool.
he sees it as like magic and stuff. So that was like the first book I like pitched to agents
I
and
keep
editors and stuff.
envisioning I keep envisioning the Zohan. Jessica, do you know that movie?
Yeah, so
That would be amazing. Those are the vibes I'm getting.
yeah, yeah,
I'm assuming slightly gentler than an Adam Sandler
No,
vibe.
yeah,
Josh, the exact
definitely.
same.
Yeah, all the Adam Sandler vibes in that as well.
Yeah.
I mean, bring it.
Yeah, right.
Sounds fun to
Like
me.
why not? Why not? Yeah, because like as a kid, I before the whole French thing and stuff, like as a child, I wanted to be a hairstylist like my mom. So I was always like cutting my Barbie's hair off and like doing like coloring it with markers or doing like pretending I was my mom basically and like doing hair, transforming them. It
Amazing.
really
So did that
started
one
well.
go? Did that one go anywhere? Did that Was that the next one that you sort of like, polished and revised and did all of the things?
From that, no, I felt like I polished it. I pitched it, wasn't getting any tractions. I wrote a rhyming story about crickets in like a Louisiana bayou, swamp sort of setting, and like how their chirping was like music. And I Twitter
Cool.
pitched that for yeah, that was I did the Twitter pitch, PB pitch in 2022, and I got an agent like so I
Ooh.
yeah, and so I queried. That was like the first time I got like any interest. Because like I was querying Arlo the Hair Magician, like cold querying agents and stuff, and there were just rejections, just saying like, oh, like this isn't for me, blah blah blah. And
That old thing.
I'm
Not right for my
yeah,
list.
not right from my list, and looking back, I'm like, yeah, I definitely was querying too early. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, a few agents asked for more stories, but like, yeah, it never went anywhere. But when I got the first agent that like on PV Pitch, I was like, oh my gosh, like my pitch caught someone's attention, and so
Yeah, right?
I queried the story right away to this agent, and I didn't hear back from him for like months,
Mm.
and then and so I think like months later I nudged, and then I sent, or I sent another picture book that at that time, like, had a interest from a small press. Like, I cold queried a very small press, and they liked the manuscript and was taking it to acquisition. So that was like the only other like interest I got. So I nudged this agent that liked my PV pitch and said, "Oh, like the small press is interested in my book. I thought I'd let you know and like check in and stuff." And
Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed my, cricket story, kind of like be like, well, did you read it,
Yeah, right? Like, what's going on over there?
Yeah, hello.
It's
It's
And
crickets.
crickets. Yeah.
oh my God, yeah. Anytime someone says, oh, it's crickets, like we say that, a lot. And I'm like, I was
In
like,
the
what's my
Discord channel.
story? And I'm like, yeah, literally my cricket story.
Yeah, right? You're like, it actually is crickets.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, I signed with that agent, in 2020, like September 2022. And so, yeah, we went on sub with a different story, a grief pet story that was not Cowboy's story, but a different one. And we were together for a year in 2023, and like October, I think October 2023, he left agenting, so I was back in the trenches.
Shoot.
Yeah, so we didn't, I learned a lot though. And he was like a new agent. So I was excited. I was like, I'm a new, writer. He's a new agent. We can grow together. And
Yeah.
he was wonderful. Like he was, so thoughtful. And I really enjoyed my time with him. And I felt like it really helped shape like my writing and like like my knowledge of the business and what
Yeah,
it's like
shoot.
to get rejections and stuff like
Such
through
a
sub.
such a bummer that he left then. I wonder why. Like if it was such a good, he seems like he was good at his job. So it's unfortunate, when people there's so much turnover anyways, and then when people
There
are
is.
good and they leave, you're like, "Oh my gosh, shoot, like now what?"
Yeah, and I wasn't expecting it, but he was so transparent and like he was like, you can reach out to me anytime though if you have questions. Like I'm not gonna just like
Oh, that's really kind.
be yeah. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go back in the query trenches and I'm gonna snag another agent. Like I hope I can. Like I know how hard
Right.
the query trenches were, so it was kind of like yeah, being back in that. But luckily, um, I had taken like an SCBWI. I did like a virtual event, like a regional virtual event, and there were submission opportunities to like 8 editors, and I had subbed this story, um, that I'm actually on sub with now. But I subbed it to these editors, the small group of editors, and like one of them was like a big five imprint, and she loved it, and she's like, I'm taking it to acquisitions. So I aligned with the time where I just had entered the query trenches again. So like I was like, okay, maybe like in my queries now I can say, hey, I'm going to acquisitions with this manuscript. Here it is, type thing, with
Yeah.
this publisher. And I got some lovely rejections. A lot of them were like, oh no, this is full.
Hmm.
I was waiting for replies, but Wendy got back to me, my current agent now, Wendy Goo, who's amazing. She got back to me and she was like, oh my gosh, like I love this story that is going to acquisitions. Like, she got back to me pretty quick and she was like, send me everything you have. And I was like, oh
Wow.
my God, everything. I was like,
You're like including Cowboy?
yeah, no, I was like, no, I probably shouldn't do a Cowboy. I think I'm gonna do like what I think are my best, manuscripts.
Totally, yeah.
And so I sent her like all my picture book manuscripts I felt like were polished and that like she would like. And I sent the first draft of my middle grade novel in first that I wrote. I was like, well, here's everything. Here's me. I'm like, dang, if she doesn't like maybe like one of the stories, does that mean like it's over. Like, you know, like
Yeah.
it's kind of like scary to send everything. It's exciting because it's like, oh, they want to see all my work. How great. But on the other end of that, it's like,
It
you know,
feels
like what
very
if there's,
vulnerable,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like, and also I just want to say real quick. So you and I share Emily Holly as a critique partner.
yeah.
Hey,
Love
Emily.
Emily. Love her.
So I know a lot about your novel in verse, like sort of indirectly from M, because
Yeah,
I remember seeing your announcement about landing Wendy Gu. This was back on Twitter, and I was still on Twitter, and I
yeah,
was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing, like, whatever. And I think I commented on the post, and then I messaged Emily because I was like, dude, I'm like, did you see? Because I knew, we were sort of mutually connected. And she was
yeah,
like, yeah, she's like, I think, in part it was the middle grade novel in verse. She's like, it was so good and so well written. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it's loosely based on you, right? Like it has that element. Anyways, I just wanted to sort of highlight that because yeah, really vulnerable to send all that to an agent, especially something that is so sort of revealing. But how
oh, yeah,
great if she loves it, right? And especially an agent like Wendy Gu, who is like amazing and like top of their game. So, anyways,
yeah.
just wanted to highlight that a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, I remember our interaction. Yeah, I was like, yeah, my middle grade novel verse, definitely the most vulnerable personal thing I've ever written. It's like a lot to do with like my mental health, and things like I experienced and stuff, and like,
Yeah.
you know, loss and grief. When my aunt passed away unexpectedly the same year that I lost Cowboy, and so
Oh
it
my
was like,
gosh, come
I
on.
know, I know, I was like, oh, my two
Like
best
one thing at a
friends.
time. Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
man.
but writing really like helped me get through that. So I'm lucky. I was lucky that I found writing and I was able to find that outlet to like really get like process my emotions and stuff. Yeah, so I sent Wendy everything, the middle grade, all the picture book manuscripts I felt good about, and she knew about the picture book going to acquisitions. And she was like, do you want to hop on a call? Like, do you want to get on a call? And like, I love your writing. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, yes. I'm like, Wendy wants to talk to me.
All right.
Yeah, I still, I mean, we've been together since 2023, but like, still to this day, I'm like, I'm lucky. Like, I don't, she's just a superstar. And I truly feel like she's like the best agent for me. And we just vibe so well.
Yeah.
Love working with her. And yeah, I feel like a lot of what I've accomplished and stuff is a lot due to like her amazing like business insight and knowledge of, Kidlit writing and stuff. So yeah, I was so happy not only just to have an agent again, and felt because I thought back after my agent left, my first agent left, I was like, I don't know if I can get another agent. Like, it's really hard out here. It's brutal. Like, yeah, so I was overjoyed that Wendy wanted to work with me.
Even though your first agent separation was not something that was done by choice, this is something we've
Hmm.
talked about like numerous times with other people who've had multiple agents. Do you feel like you approached the relationship with Wendy with a different mindset informed by your first agent? And what changed, or what sort of learnings did you bring that you made sure that you wanted to get from Wendy?
Yeah, not like much change. Like, I always prioritize communication, and I felt like my first agent was very communicative, and Wendy is too. But I definitely like feel the difference is the confidence. So like with my first agent, I was like, okay, like, yeah, I think I can do this. Like, I was new. I was only like a year into starting my writing journey and I got the agent. But like he helped me build a lot of confidence. So by the time I signed with Wendy, I just felt confident in like my writing and like what I wanted to say. And like I started, I was able to suggest editors to her of like, oh, I think that, this person will be interested. Like I felt like I found my voice more. and was able to like, speak up on like my thoughts and my ideas. With my first agent, I was more like kind of passive and like, you know what you're doing. I trust you. And I did. But I feel like now with Wendy, it's like, oh, if I have an idea or if I want to suggest something, like I can totally do that.
That's an interesting answer. Your thought is that it's more like a personal maturity or a
Yeah,
personal
definitely.
experience thing. You knew how to navigate the industry better with Wendy than you might have the first time around, which is different than the answer that we normally get, which is like I know what I want out of an agent now. I know how to target an agent differently.
Yeah, yeah. I think I always knew what I wanted of an agent, and I did a lot of like research on like people's like, personal stories, like blogs about their agenting experience, and I knew like I wasn't gonna sign with an agent. Like when you're a new writer, you're like, oh, I'll sign with any agent, like I'll take anyone. But I knew I'm like, you know what, I really need to have an agent who like is communicative, transparent, really champions my stories. I mean, I did feel definitely that desperation of like, oh, I really want to sign with someone. But knowing like my anxiety and like how I am, I definitely needed someone who was like responsive, and my first agent definitely was, and Wendy is for sure. So um, I feel like I grew in my confidence with my first agent to where when I came around to Wendy, I just felt a lot more confident.
It's time for this week's book reviews. From Josh. Josh is on a tear right now with CG Esperanza. This week he's reviewing Kicks in the Sky, on which CG is the author and illustrator. Josh admits he was most familiar with CG's semi-realistic painter style with Winsome Bingham's Soul Food Sunday and Fish Fry Friday. So to see this art paired with CG's own style of writing feels fresh. It has a distinct cadence to it, a rhyme and magical pace that keeps the words flowing as the neon colors fly by. Just an absolutely pleasant and fast-paced read. And my review for this week is for The Ghost Who Saved Halloween, written by Jen Anyong and illustrated by Kaly Quarles. This fun, unique twist on a ghost story draws inspiration from Edgar Allan Poe and keeps kids engaged and turning pages with clever rhyming. And Quarles knocks it out of the park, or should I say graveyard, with the illustrations. This one drops July 26th, so get your pre-orders in now. And don't forget to get your own reviews and library requests in. It's the #1 way to help an author's sales. And now, back to our show.
For lack of a better term, I guess portfolio is a word to use, but what does your portfolio look like at this point? Because I mean, this is 2023. You've sent her lots. You've sent her everything. You've also gone completely down the rabbit hole of 12 by 12 and SCBWI and all the other stuff that you listed, and really leaned into it. How much work did you have
When I queried Wendy?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What sort of volume of work were you working with at this point? And what I'm trying to get out is like, if people are listening to this and are want to learn from your journey, I guess what I'm trying to get at is like, you're working really hard. What kind of,
Yeah.
what's the volume of work that you're producing?
Yeah, by that time, I totally followed the 12 by 12. Like I wrote a new picture book every month. So, and I joined 12 by 12 in 2023. So I already had like, I think 5 or 6 manuscripts before then. So I had probably like close to 20, maybe over 20 manuscripts. But like all in different stages. And there are definitely ones where I was like, okay, I'm going to polish these. I think these are, worth finishing and stuff. And yeah, so I think I sent Wendy like 10 picture book manuscripts and then my middle grade novel in verse. And those 10 were like, I felt good about polished. I was really prolific back then. Less so now.
Yeah, for sure. Do you know with those other 10, let's just get, say an even 20 that you have that are polished, do you know that those are not going to see the light of day? Or how do you think about those manuscripts?
Yeah, I have like an Excel sheet of like, okay, these are my finished manuscripts, and these are the ones that I think could go on sub and like maybe see the light of day. So I have like my finished, what I think could sell list of manuscripts, and there's probably like 10 or 12 on there. And then I have my under revision list of like, okay, these ones I still need to revise because they might see the light of day if I get them to a point. And then I have like my shelved for good list, and there's quite a bit on there.
The let's save this for the Dead Manuscript Society segment on Josh and Brenna's podcast list.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Um,
Yes.
yeah, I and the ones that are shelved for good, some of them are like me knowing that like, okay, I just didn't get there with that manuscript. Like I'm okay with shelving this. Like I don't think it's gonna like see the light of day. And then some of them are like, from like Wendy saying like, oh, like let's put this in the drawer for now and we can come back to it. She never tells me to shelve anything. She just says like, okay, maybe not at this time. As we know, like publishing's always changing. At this point, most editors might be like, oh, I want this. And then like, in a few months it'll be different. So, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I'm happy with the amount of work I've produced, and I try to see it very like objectively. It's really hard because like we're so tied to our book babies. We're like,
Mhm.
but it came from me. But I try to see objectively of like, okay, would this really stand out in the market? Does this have like enough universal themes? Does this make for a fun read aloud? Would this like capture and compel kids?
Do you, Jess, I want to talk about real quick, because we mentioned Emily already, but I know that you guys have, or not as much anymore. I know Emily kind of took a bit of a backseat for a minute from the publishing world, just because number one, it's brutal, and number two, she had another baby, which is exciting. So
I
shout out to
know her
Em.
baby's so cute.
I
I love
know,
seeing pictures of her kids. I'm like, oh, they're
I
so cute.
know, so
Go look at
cute.
her Instagram, everybody.
Oh my god, it's so wholesome and just like,
It is so
yeah,
adorable.
yeah.
But my question revolves around the critique group, because so like looking at your journey sort of from an overhead perspective is like, oh my God, like Jess sort of like took a bunch of classes, wrote some stuff, landed an agent, the agent left, and then she just got another one, like real easy peasy, like no big deal, right? There's
Man,
not a
yeah.
lot of like, we don't sort of talk about like that like revision part or the critique group part. And I know
Oh yeah.
that your critique group, I mean, you guys are high caliber writers. It's like you, Emily, Trinice, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Jess Yoon at some point, the Golden Squirrels, am I right?
Yeah, well, Justine,
Okay.
she wasn't she's not in the critique group, but we have like swapped and talk and stuff.
Okay.
And yeah, she totally is like a high
Okay.
caliber
So she's
writer.
like sort of like a parallel like sort of like journey,
Yeah,
I guess, because I sort of like her name
yeah,
came to me.
yeah. It's kind of like those 2021 writers. Like you're seeing them now. Like in my Children's Book Academy class, the first one I took, like that's where I met Trinice, and she was starting her journey. I met and
Okay.
and saw Cherry Moe, who won the Caldecott honor for Home in a Lunchbox. I saw her
Oh
pick
my gosh.
for Home in a
Wow.
Lunchbox, and like she
Very
won the
cool.
Caldecott. So I was like, I messaged her on Instagram. I'm like, oh my god, like we took this class together, and like I
Yeah.
remember you. And she's like, I remember you. And it was just like, oh my god, like this is so cool, like to see like everyone's journeys and like
Yeah.
what
Like,
happens, like
I
that
guess
keeps me going.
I wanted to ask about it just because the power of a critique group is just like,
Oh my gosh,
like it's
yeah.
invaluable. You can't put a price tag on it. But I also,
Right.
I just want to point out to listeners, who, if you're just starting, like everybody
Yeah,
starts somewhere. Like all of these
definitely.
names that I just listed are, they're like big go-to names in the kidlit world. Like like I would be happy to get a critique from any of you guys because I know what your writing is like. But you had to start somewhere, and you guys all sort of met at the beginning, and then you grew together. And I guess my
Exactly.
my actual question is, how much of that critique group, like how much did you lean on that group as you were revising, or before you got your first agent, and then in between getting Wendy, like how much of their feedback sort of influenced what you put out
Oh
and
my gosh.
where it is.
Yeah. Yeah, so much. Like I met the Golden Squirrels, which is like Trinice and me, and Em was in it, and Darcy Nasland and Megan Mountford. We met through the Children's Book Academy class. And I met some other wonderful CPs that I still work with today through there. And it's everything. Like having that feedback and being able to like just put like your crappy first draft on there and like and know that like they're gonna be supportive and they're gonna like give you feedback because out of like wanting to help you make that manuscript stronger and better and like just help you. And like I mean my critique groups, we been doing like, you know, we did like monthly feedback, and I was in more than one critique group. So like finding your people and working with them and you know, being open to giving feedback and receiving feedback. I feel like I've learned a lot about writing craft through giving feedback and receiving feedback. Because like it feels so solitary. Like you write a story and you're like, I think it's good, and then you put it out there, and then you just learn so much from other people's perspectives and what they, you know, critique groups and revising with them and getting that feedback is so valuable. Like it's a must. Highly encourage you to find your people for sure, and create and not be afraid to reach out. Like I'm in a critique group with Stina Hernandez and like Jenna Elise Johnson, and I reached out to Stina because I admired her on Twitter and like she just seemed amazing, and I was like, hey, do you want to start a critique group together? Like, I mean, I think we chatted a little bit before that, but I reached out to her on Twitter back when Twitter was Twitter, and like I was like, do you want to start a critique group together? I'm looking to like make a new one. And then that's when we, you know, I reached out to Jenna Elise Johnson, who was on this, you know, she was like your latest episode. So
and Stina has also been on. Hi, Stina.
So excited for her. To hear that. I love her. I love all my critique partners. And it's just amazing to see like how we've grown together and helped shape these stories. Like I read these books that are now published and sold, like Stina's Lupita, you know, Lupita's Brown Belly Slippers, and like Jenna's Everybody Move coming out in September. And like,
so good.
I saw those like when they were just newborns, like they were just first drafts, and it's like, oh my gosh, the baby's here.
When they were ugly little newborns that look like aliens.
Exactly. Like you didn't really know, you know, how you couldn't lift your head yet, you know. But now look at you.
We've done it again, though. I'm looking at our timer, and we're 40 minutes in, and we haven't talked about your debut yet.
I know.
This is always the way. Because the journey, I mean, the journey is really interesting, but your book is also super, super cute, very horsey. Yeah. So let's turn to that and see how we got to that, because I mean, it bears establishing the timeline, because if you started your relationship with Wendy in 23, your book is due out in summer of 26, which is as of recording in about a year. So that happened fairly quickly.
Yeah. I actually wrote My Pony Wonder, which is my debut PB, coming out in July 2026 with Random House Studio and illustrated by Ramona Kalitsky, who's amazing. That was a manuscript. At that time, it was called Trail Ride Together. And I wrote that before I queried Wendy. It was inspired by my sister. So me and my sister grew up riding horses and ponies, and taking horse riding lessons and stuff. And like my sister was obsessed with horses. And so me wanting to be just like my sister, I loved horses. And so we rode together. And I tried to write a story about my sister getting her first horse, Major. And I try to write that story, and I'm like, oh, this isn't really flowing. Like, it's not coming out the way I want. And so one day I read Valerie Bowling's Together We Ride, loved it. And I just loved the rhythm and the rhyme and the sparse text. And I was like, what if Together We Ride was like instead of riding a bike, what if it was riding a horse or a pony? So I was like, okay, I'm going to try this story structure. I'm going to try to rhyme and use meter. And I'm going to try to just write about a girl riding a horse, a pony, trail ride.
That's funny. I wouldn't have thought that, but I see the parallels now, very much parallels, and can see that as a mentor text.
Yeah, definitely. It was the text that that started this like new switch of structure, and deciding to, because the first story idea with my sister getting her first horse was just in prose, and it was just like the day that she got her first horse and like came to the barn and there was a bow around his neck type thing. But I read Together We Ride, and I'm like, I want to I want to do something like that. Like, I love this. This is so fun to read aloud. And I just loved what Valerie did. And so I just kind of like took that structure idea and I wrote Trail Ride Together, which is now my Pony Wonder.
Did you use Valerie's book as a comp when you pitched it?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
nice.
did. Yeah, I did. I believe on my query to Wendy. I think I might have like included a pitch for Trail Ride Together, and or at least I told her eventually that like yeah, Together We Ride was like the comp and mentor text, like what made me write this story the way it is. Yeah, so
Awesome. Yeah.
reading picture books and being like, oh, I love this. Like, what if I wrote something like it, like not like the same story, but like, what if I tried that structure, or like, what if like this book, what if it was like not a bike, but a horse, So I like doing that for ideas.
And I like that too. And what this puts me in mind of is less using Together We Ride as a comp. The way
Hmm.
that we're framing it sounds like how startups get funding. It's like Uber, but
Yeah.
for unicorns or,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is, if it works for venture capital, it should be a useful framing device for us. My question,
Yeah.
though, is does Valerie know that she was your inspo? Do you know her personally?
Yes. Yeah, I
Awesome.
did. Also, first of all, Uber for unicorns sounds really fun and cute. I love that.
All right. We'll see
Write
if it
that book,
becomes
Josh.
something. Yeah,
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 Yeah.
Uber for
yeah.
unicorns. Like, can you imagine? Like, I gotta call a unicorn so I could go fly to somewhere. But no,
And also the alliteration, like the accidental
Uber for
alliteration that
unicorns.
is already sort of
Yeah.
like, it's perfect.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay. I'm obsessed. But
Yeah, we're going to work on
yeah,
this weekend.
I think
yeah,
Tara
this is
Hannon
so
would be
fun.
an amazing illustrator for that book, just
Oh my
throwing it out
gosh.
there.
Yeah.
So
Let's
collaborate,
do it.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. This needs to be a story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, what was your question? I got
I don't even
distracted
know.
by
Oh,
Uber for unicorns.
does Valerie know? You know her personally. She knows that she's your inspo.
Yeah, when I wrote the story and when we went on sub with it and stuff, it was the second manuscript that me and Wendy went on sub with together. But I reached out to Valerie. I'm like, oh my gosh, just so you know, like I'm on sub with this story, and like your book is like what inspired me to like write it this way. And like, thank you for writing this. Together We Ride. It's absolutely amazing, and it really like truly inspired me. And if one day this book sells, like I just want to let you know, like you were the inspiration, like. And she was so
That's
sweet. She was like, oh
that's
my gosh,
awesome.
it's so great to hear. And like and then when we sold my Pony Wonder, which is that story, I told Valerie, I emailed her, and she was like, oh my gosh, congratulations.
That's so,
It's
I
so
love
nice.
that because I don't know if you saw in the Discord channel, but semi recently, and I forget which actual channel in PB Workshop, but Katie Bennett, who has also been on the pod, she recently said, she's like, I didn't know this was a bucket list item until it was like put out into the universe. But yeah, like bucket list item as an author to be a comp in
Hmm.
somebody else's
Yes.
pitch,
Oh
like
my gosh.
that is like
Yeah.
such a fun like honor, I guess. Like it'd be so cool to have your book, comped in somebody else's pitch. So
Oh my
yeah, for
gosh.
Valerie,
Totally.
that probably just feels really good.
Yeah, I feel like it's probably like similar to getting like your fan, like a kid's fan mail or like a letter saying like, thank you
Totally.
for writing this book,
Yeah.
like, I love your book. And like, oh yeah, I totally fangirl to Valerie. Like, I look up to you. Like,
Very
you're
cool.
amazing.
Very cool.
So, what was the interaction with Random House Studio like?
Oh
That
yeah, so it was interesting. So we sent out my Pony Wonder. At that time, it was still called Trail Ride Together, but we sent it out in like April 2024, and then we got Random House's Studios offer in June from Lee Wade, my editor, who's incredible. And yeah, it was an interesting journey to get the offer. I don't think it's like the normal typical track of getting the contract, because Lee loved the story. She grew up writing like ponies, and she was like, oh, Random House Studio doesn't have like a horse or pony book yet, so I love this. I grew up writing horses like and ponies. um And so she was like, before making her offer, before we knew like she was gonna, she was like, because Trail Ride Together was a horse, it wasn't a pony. So Lee was like, "Oh, can we do a pony? You know, like I feel like a pony would be more suited for a 6-year-old main character. Can we? Is it okay with Jessica if like the horse were to be a pony?" And I was like, "Yeah, ponies are freaking cute. Like I love ponies." I'm like, "Yeah, it could be a pony. Like it's just a small horse, you know?
Yeah, right.
Like that's cute."
I admit to being a horse idiot. It didn't really dawn on me that that would even be a material distinction.
Yeah, yeah. So like Trail Ride Together, I always imagined a horse because I, was inspired by my sister and her horse. But I was like, oh yeah, like if this is a 6-year-old main character, like a pony would be definitely more um like suitable. And I mean like I have pictures of me riding ponies as a little kid and stuff, and what kid doesn't love ponies? So I was like, all right, yeah, pony for sure. Like I love that. And then um but so Lee was like, she was like, I'll admit, I'm on the fence. Like, I need to think about this. I'm not sure. Like, she's like, I think I need a visual sense of what the art would be like. Can Jessica send me illustrator ideas? So I had sent her Lee illustrator ideas before I even knew she was like gonna eventually give me an offer, which I feel like is not the norm because usually you give illustrator ideas after like you get the offer and they're like, okay, we're
Totally.
gonna. So she was like, I'm like, oh, she wants illustrator ideas like now. Like she's, she was on the fence. She was like, I'm 50-50. I'm not sure if I'm gonna acquire this or not. So I sent
I
her the
can't
list of illustrators and
I can't let it go. The fact that you've said on the fence a couple of different times here and we're talking about
yeah,
horses, it feels very appropriate. I mean,
it
it's
does, right?
in the sense of humanizing publishing industry professionals. I can sort of see, like, read between the lines here with Lee and say, like, it feels like there was an I want this, I need something that can be convincing and help me pitch this to my colleagues to
Yeah,
make
for
this real.
sure. Yeah, she's like, I love the story. I love that it's a girl and her pony on a trail ride, but I think I need more. I need to know like, A, is Jessica okay with it being a pony? Is she open to a title change? I'm having, a hard time like visually seeing like the variety of illustrations that the art would provide. So, and like, what kind of she's like I think the art should be like cute and artful and stuff like what kind of illustrators would be able to do this. So I sent her the list. I sent her like 7 illustrator ideas, and and I told her the title change is totally okay with that. Like I agree, like we could come up with a title that's like better. And then after she saw the illustrator ideas and like I gave her the title change and stuff, she was like, oh, I want to do this, like I'm making you an offer, like let's do this. So I was like, oh yay, finally. It was like a few months because like I said, like we sent Lee and the other editors the story in April, and then in June she gave me the offer. So it was a few months of like not knowing if Lee was gonna like buy it or decline. It was like
Yeah,
it was like teetering and stuff, and so like every day I was checking my email, thinking, seeing like, okay, did Lee say yes or no? Did she say yes or no? Like,
right.
I want to know.
In the grand scheme of waiting, it's not that bad, though. Seems like to me.
No,
A
it's
couple months,
not.
pretty
It's
healthy.
not. Oh yeah, definitely in the scheme of publishing, like that's pretty quick. But when you feel like you're on the cusp of getting an offer, like your first offer, it felt like so long.
Totally. You're like,
So
just yes or no. Like, what is it, man? Like,
yeah,
You
yeah,
might
please let me know.
were you chomping at the bit is the question that I will
I
ask.
get
was
out of
chomping at
here.
the
Sorry.
bit,
Sorry.
like I was kicking my heels, like, come on, giddy up, let's go.
I want to, before it escapes my brain, I just want to ask really quick is there any, like in your repertoire of stuff, did you ever explore a French English manuscript? Because I know, like, Josh has talked
Yeah,
on the podcast before, about his French and Spanish, and he likes to sort of like weave them in and has a couple of manuscripts. So
well,
I'm interested.
yeah. Those like my family and stuff has asked me that too. People who know me because like I taught French for so long, and French was like my thing. It was my passion. They're like, "Oh, have you written a book in French?" I
Yeah.
have not. I just
Oh
haven't
my
come
gosh.
across. I don't know. I don't know. I think it's just I haven't found the idea yet and what I would want it. I can't see what it looks like. Like I can't.
Mm.
imagine an idea yet and it hasn't formed. I definitely would love to try it. But
Sometimes
yeah,
I feel like sometimes stuff is so close to you that you
exactly.
don't have enough distance, yeah, to get that
Yes.
perspective. Because I've been asked, I've been writing a similar amount of picture books, a similar amount of time as you, and I've been asked
Yeah.
over the years if I've written a rock climbing book, and I was like, well, no, like it never,
Yeah.
the thought never crossed my mind because they're very sort of like these are two really important pieces of my life, and I never considered that they might cross. They just were like, these are the
Exactly.
things that I do. But recently, I started writing some rock climbing stuff, and now I've
Oh,
got
I
like,
love that.
yeah, now I've got, so the first thing that I wrote about climbing is being published in the Toy magazine coming up, their newest editions. It's just like a,
Oh,
like a
yeah.
quick like poem, thanks, just a quick, like poem about like the movement and whatever. So there's that, and then
Mm.
I have a couple of other just like rough drafts that I've been working on, and then a biography. And so like, I guess my point is like, once I sort of tapped that like vein of like
Mm.
like background and experience and like all of the stuff, things have just been like pouring out now. But I understand what you're saying about sort of
Mm.
like, nah, it just like hasn't quite clicked. I can't quite think
Yeah.
about, the right idea because you care about it so much. You're like, I want to get this right. And if I don't, like what does that
Right.
mean? Like it sort of diminishes like your passion or like your interest in it or like how much it means to you. Anyway.
Yeah, it definitely feels like too close. That's like when I wrote My Pony Wonder and I tried to write my sister and her horse's story. I'm like, maybe this is too close. Like maybe I'm too
Mm,
close to this. So like panning out and just going like, okay, just a girl, doesn't have to be my sister. It could be
right.
any girl. And she's just on a trail ride with her horse. Like it doesn't have to be like the day they met and how my sister got her horse and stuff. So like definitely
Right.
like sometimes when you get the idea like inspired by like your past experiences or what you love to do and things like sometimes yeah you're too close but like panning out and zooming out and being more general about it like will help the story like come together and like make it even more universal too.
Totally. Because the other part is,
So
I think it's hard to let go of things that are really important to
mm,
you personally, but might not resonate with, anyone. Because I feel like
yeah.
I've written stuff like that before too, where it's just like, ooh, this is just really specific. And like, I feel
Mhm.
like it's important and it's not a thread I'm willing to get rid of, but it's, quite obviously dragging down the story. And then I'm kind of stuck. I'm like, well, I don't want to get rid of it. What do I do? So yeah,
Yeah.
you need that distance anyway.
Yeah, I feel like capturing the feeling that but like putting it in a different setting, a different like plot, obviously, than what your past experience of, but going with the feeling that and experience, so just putting it in a different world, that really helps me. Like with my middle grade, like that really helped.
I guess there's a parallel here that I'm mentally drawing between, folks who write from lived experience, like especially lived cultural experience. There's something autobiographical about that, but they do, like you're saying, take a step further
Mhm.
away so that it can be educational in a sense. So you can share that lived experience rather
Yeah,
than
I
just
feel
share
like
an autobiographical story.
you can explore more and kind of be more loose about it, which I feel like is very freeing creatively. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
And I want to acknowledge too, before time gets away from us, the way that we've interacted too, because I'm a pandemic Duolingo French learner. I mean, for
Yeah.
almost 3 years. And
Mhm.
what's interesting is that I found it fascinating to give that a try. I'm not
Yeah.
fluent in any other language than English, and barely English some days, but it was something that I wanted to see if I could make work, because there are so many cognates. So cognates being,
Mhm.
similar words
Mhm.
between languages, between French and English. And so what I had done is see if we could write a pirate story using a French pirate character that uses cognates. And what's interesting is like there is an aspect of I want to write about that, but I'm also stepping into a space that's not mine. Uh,
Exactly. Pirates.
it's a
Yeah,
fine line to walk because I'm not a
it
pirate.
is.
Is the main point.
Are you sure? Oh, yeah, yeah, it really is like taking that topic or like that theme or that feeling that you want to write, and that personally, but putting it in a different world, whether that be fantastical or real, based in reality. But yeah, that's
With,
cool. I like that.
without giving too much away, Jess, about your middle grade novel in verse, because you mentioned that that was one that you also sort of had to step away from and put in maybe like a different setting or a different context.
Hmm.
Can you talk about it a little bit? Like just, whatever you feel comfortable with. And I'm asking because the other story that I have that I've written that is based very much on myself that I feel like I'm sort of stuck in is one that I actually shared with you about
Yeah.
my like college experience and whatever. And that one I feel like is another one where it's like it's too close. Like I can't quite
Hmm.
get it to click because I'm so like married to some of these threads or some of these characters, and it's really hard to cut them because they're from
Right.
my life. So anyways,
And they're in the
I was
story.
yeah, exactly. So I was interested, in how you sort of did that or what got you there.
Yeah, I feel like okay, so my middle grade, my main character is basically based on me and like my experience with like major depression disorder, and like one of my symptoms was psychosis. So like was in basically like I basically had like psychotic depression where it's like I had hallucinations, and I got diagnosed with other things along with it, and like went to therapy every week and saw my doctor every week, and found medications that worked for me and stuff. But I wanted to like write through it because I feel like exploring psychotic depression or like you know hallucinations and that sort of symptom that can come with major depression disorder like hasn't really been explored in kidlit, and it can happen to anyone. So I was like, okay, if I'm gonna write this, like it needs to take place in a completely different setting. Like I need to step back. My first outing during like my depression episode was I went to a sunflower farm. Like I went to a sunflower festival. And I was like, you know what? Like sunflowers are beautiful. Like this could be a really beautiful like way to incorporate like imagery and metaphor and stuff. I decided like, okay, my main character will be, she lives on a sunflower farm, and using that as like a way to like tie in the imagery to the emotions and like who my main character is. So like I just knew like I need a different setting. What if the setting was kind of a character in itself? Like what if this served as like a great way to use imagery and like metaphor and poetic devices because my middle grade's in verse, so I wanted it to have poetic devices. And then like the main character is grieving her aunt, and I did lose my aunt, and she was my best friend, and in the story it's the same, but like the aunt is a different age, and they do things that my aunt never did. Like they listen to like folk music and like danced and like things that like I don't know, it just felt natural, like it just felt a part of these characters. So it was like incorporating things that like aren't me, but like the feeling is me. So yeah.
I love that you went like feeling first and also just sort of highlighting maybe for myself to remember, but like also getting really clear, what you're trying to get across to the audience when you're writing this story. I feel like if you can get clear on that, you can sort of lift it out of your personal story and drop it into another setting and sort of follow that, like follow the feeling and follow like that sort of like for lack of a better term, but that like log line, like just keep referring to like what it is you're actually trying to get across, and that can kind of guide you. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Like I do with like my picture book manuscripts and everything, I try to write the pitch, the pitch first sometimes, or the
Yeah,
pitch after I do that first draft. So it's like, okay, am I capturing the feeling that like I'm trying to convey? And
totally.
does the plot and setting and all that other stuff, does it work? It kind of like, does it fit together like a puzzle? And like, can I draw threads between everything? And does it like just mix together to make like a whole story?
Is
Yeah.
everything else like kind of in service of this main distillation that I'm going for? I like that as a kind of a just setting a target for yourself. And also,
Yeah.
I will say that my 11-year-old, I don't know what specific age group you wrote your novel in verse for, but she would eat that story up.
Oh yeah, yeah. My main character is 12 years old. Even though like I experienced like these mental health issue. Well, I've had childhood anxiety since I, like, as long as I could remember, and like separation anxiety was really bad for me and stuff. So like there's a lot of that from my childhood in there too. But like I had depression as an adult, but I know kids, you know, young kids, they experience that. Yeah. So so for middle grade, like my main character is 12 years old, and it's like, yeah, definitely like kids that age go through things like that. And like if I can even just help one kid with the story and help them feel like seen or like reassured, like that'll make me feel overjoyed.
Yeah.
Because like, you know, we feel like we write these stories, for me at least, I feel like I write my stories for myself, and then I start to see like, oh yeah, this is for like all these kids, because we're all human, we all experience this emotion. So yeah.
Well, Jess, we are up and over the hour, and I just want to say thank you so much for joining us and being so generous with your time and your insight. And just, it's been really nice to actually, sit down and have an actual chat with you after all these years of sort of like,
Yeah.
knowing you like
Heck
online, but
yes.
not in person. So yeah, thank you for coming on. This has been great.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me and letting me share a bit about my journey. And for, yeah, I'm excited. I got to talk about my debut picture book, My Pony Wonder. And yeah, I
Yeah.
can't wait. Just one more year and then it'll be out. So I'm so excited.